Hey everybody, welcome to the 18th episode of the Smart Marks of Wrestling podcast presented by thesportster.com. My name is Jim Parsons. We're going to be covering everything from Extreme Rules. We watched that pay-per-view, a very good pay-per-view. Then we watched Raw and SmackDown on Monday and Tuesday with some interesting things going on, the biggest of which was Bray Wyatt's debut as The Fiend. We'll get into that. We'll get into the Raw Reunion show. We'll get into what's coming up for WWE and AEW. And as you'll find out, Brandon's got a lot to say about Dolph Ziggler. That is the 18th episode of the Smart Marks of Wrestling podcast presented by thesportster.com. All right, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Smart Marks of Wrestling podcast presented by thesportster.com. As always, I've got Brandon on the other line. Brandon, how you doing?
Doing pretty well, Jim. The power's out over here, but other than that, should be good.
We're having all sorts of technical difficulties. It's pouring rain here. Wi-Fi's iffy. Your power's out there. So we're doing everything old school. I guess old school. No technical microphones, just a phone conversation. But hopefully the quality is good enough that everybody can hear us okay. Let's remind everybody where they can find us. So Anchor.fm is our host platform. So you can check us out, Smart Marks of Wrestling Podcast on Anchor.fm. TheSportster.com, WrestlingWriteUps.com. What other platforms are we available on?
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you said Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, really anywhere you can find your podcasts.
Okay, well, that gives people a good way to find us if they want to download, rate it, subscribe to it, comment on it. They can do so, and if they're interested in letting us know what they want to hear and talk about, go on any one of those platforms and let us know. So where should we start today? We cover Raw and SmackDown to get things going?
We can start Extreme Rules if you want, since that kind of like led up to the shows this week.
Sure, let's do that. Where do you want to start with Extreme Rules? We did a bunch of predictions not too long ago. I can't say that we were entirely accurate, but nothing too crazy. What did you think of the show?
Honestly, I thought it was the best pay-per-view in years.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, match quality-wise, we did predict that it was going to be a kind of a sleeper of a pay-per-view. The undercard, especially the mid-card to the undercard, was high-quality opponents against each other and really good quality matches. And it turned out that is what it was. The main event maybe being the letdown of the show in terms of the quality of the match and then the outcome for a lot of people. But the rest of the pay-per-view was really good. What was your favorite match?
Oh, there was two that I really liked. Actually, there's three that I really liked. But the one that stood out to me the most that really surprised me was the tag team match, the three-way tag team match. That was really, really good with New Day, Brian and Rowan, and Heavy Machinery.
Yeah, were you surprised by the outcome?
Great.
I don't think either one of us picked New Day, did we?
No, I don't think so, but I'm also not surprised. It's one of those things where you could see any of the teams winning it, right? New Day is obviously one of the best tag teams, I guess you can say, in history at this point. They're very good. They're very liked by the fans. And it's amazing, too, because you figure a team that's so, thrown down your throats every single week is the kind of team that would be annoying after a while. But New Day just does such a good job at keeping themselves fresh and interesting, and all three guys are charismatic and loved by the fans. And Big E, he just keeps getting more popular and popular by the day, it seems, So yeah. New Day winning doesn't surprise me.
Yep, no, that was a good match. I think my favorite match was probably the Braun Strowman Bobby Lashley match. I thought that was pretty
right?
Yes, it was pretty creative the way that they set that up. There was a lot of work and effort went into how that match was produced and stuff. I thought that was pretty good.
It was almost 18 minutes, that match, too. It was like 17 minutes, which means
they went hard for it. You could tell Strowman was had been working hard by the time that match was over. Okay, let's go through them really quickly, and we'll say what we're surprised by, what we liked about them, that sort of thing. So it started with the pre-show, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Finn Balor. Shinsuke Nakamura walks away the Intercontinental Champion. That was in the pre-show. It was a match that was added last minute. Wasn't even supposed to be there, but after he beat him, I think it was SmackDown, he got a rematch, and then he won the title. So are you surprised by that one?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were mad that was on the pre-show, and I get it. That match is the kind of match that if I would have told you about it, let's say 5 years ago, 3 years ago even, you're saying, okay, this is the main event of WrestleMania, not the pre-show of a random pay-per-view in July. But that meant people were going to tune into the pre-show. right? So you've got to kind of you got to appreciate that they were smart enough to put that match on early to get people invested into it. Especially when, look, this company is a it's a business, right? They want to make sure that they have as many buys as they can for their pay-per-view and for their network. So if they can give you that match for free and then tell you, hey, there's more like this on the actual card, I'd definitely bite if I wasn't already subscribed. I thought there were some really good moments in the match. One moment really stood out to me was when Shinsuke went for the Kinshasa and Finn just like double stomped him in the chest. Like he just jumped over and like stomped him down. I thought it was really unique, really good piece of offense there.
Yeah, it was a good match. I was a little surprised by the outcome until I heard about the Finn Balor asking for time off story that is out there now.
Yeah,
And he's looking to leave WWE for a while and just refresh and take a back seat for however many months he's going to go. And if that is true and that's the story, then it makes sense that you're not going to have him leave with the Intercontinental title. And if they decided to push Nakamura, the only thing that I'm not really sure about is that we don't really know the timeline for Eric Bischoff or Paul Heyman or whatever show Nakamura winds up on a regular basis. We thought they were taking over already. We don't know if they've taken over yet. Nakamura just sort of came out of nowhere for a guy that was sort of buried for the last few months. Is now all of a sudden being pushed to the moon. Is that them pushing them, or is that WWE? Is that Vince pushing him? So I'm not really sure where that's going. But if there's anybody to take the title from Balor, I'm okay with it being Nakamura.
Yeah, Nakamura is the kind of guy who, as good as he is, he's another one of those people that you just think, which is, it sucks because he was definitely one of the top wrestlers in the world a few years ago. So
well, and he was unreal in NXT, right? There was so much anticipation when he came to the main roster. Yeah, but I mean for mainstream people who don't know the outside WWE world of wrestling.
That's a good point, though. The fact that he's able to do it in North America in WWE's like system and everything shows that he knows how to compete and get a crowd going and put on a great match. So it's not like it's just the fact that he made the jump to North America. He was great. One of the best matches we've seen ever in WWE was Shinsuke versus Sami Zayn at TakeOver.
Yeah,
right?
That was great. Yeah, that was a good match. Okay, so we've got a new Intercontinental Champion, and it looks like Balor is on his way out. He lost to Samoa Joe on Raw on Monday. He lost to, the debuting Bray Wyatt, which we'll touch on in a minute. So he's probably on his way out. We know that much. Drew Gulak and Tony Nese.
Did he lose to didn't he beat Joe?
No, he lost to Joe. He got rolled up. It was a quick pin, but then he ended up beating the crap out of Samoa Joe. And so celebrating with the fans right after his loss. And then that's when Bray Wyatt came out. So, yeah, it was like a hidden loss for Finn Balor to Samoa Joe.
Right.
And then he kind of cleared the ring with him and celebrated with the fans until he got interrupted. So we both picked Drew Gulak to go over Tony Nese, and that is what happened. Drew Gulak defeated Tony Nese in the second match of the pre-show. No real surprise there, I don't think, right?
No, your reasoning made perfect sense, and it's so I didn't really know who's going to win. But your logic of Drew Gulak kind of being like the character that can get people entertained and involved in 205 Live, I totally believed in, and I thought, your reasoning is sound, and turns out you were right.
Okay, so first match of the main card, which was a surprise for a first match, Undertaker and Roman Reigns defeated Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre.
That's not a surprise. Undertaker needed to get some sleep after he's older now.
Yeah,
we love Undertaker again. It's just fun.
Well, I suppose what was a surprise, not only was it the first match, but it was a very good match. 17 minutes. Really Undertaker match. Looked really good.
Yeah, considering not what happened against Goldberg. That was an anomaly.
Yeah. No, that was a good match. Good ending. We both predicted Undertaker, Roman Reigns. I'm sure most people probably did.
I'm curious. Did you wince at all or cringe when he was going for the tombstone?
No, I thought he looked so good in the match that I wasn't terribly worried about it. And Shane McMahon is not the smallest guy in the world, but he's not a Goldberg, right?
Yeah,
he's not like picking up Drew McIntyre. Right. He's not like picking up Roman Reigns. Even Roman Reigns is probably not terribly heavy for that situation. But he looked good. Shane McMahon's a little lighter. You could see where his head was. It was okay.
Yeah, very well done.
Do they do the tombstone? I don't know if that's the greatest idea to keep that in his repertoire, but he didn't look like he was going to hurt him. Well, you have to as long as it's safe, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, sure.
Because he can
he'll do it forever.
Yeah, I mean, there was a long time where he just did a choke slam and then he did a chokehold, like a triangle that he did on the ground for a long time. Yeah. I mean, he's done everything, so you can get away from the tombstone if you needed to.
Yeah, choke slam, last ride, and the Hell's Gate or whatever. You have a bunch of options otherwise, but yeah.
Yeah, you can even do a last ride off a rope if he needs the help, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then we moved to Revival against the Usos. I was pleasantly
Really great
surprised
match.
to be happy to see the Revival retain. We had both said that Usos are the type of team that WWE may just pick to win out of anywhere, but the Revival held on to the tag team titles, which is great. A 12-minute match, really good, solid match. Those
Yep.
guys could have gone way
Classic,
longer, but
man.
it was good.
Just classic tag team match.
Yep. We both predicted Aleister Black probably to go over Cesaro. We hoped that it would be a draw. It wasn't a draw. It was a good match. Black won it.
And no one got buried. Cesaro looked really good in the loss. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, the only downside was that Cesaro then came out and challenged Black on
And then
TV
lost. I know.
a
Yeah.
couple days later and lost. So
all right.
in
Well,
that,
we're throwing out the positives here for the pay per view.
in that respect, it's a little bit of a burial. But the match itself was good at Extreme Rules, and it is what we figured it would be. Here's a surprise for me, though. Bayley defeated both Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. She wins it on her own. No Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I can't blame booking for that one. Like any kind of creative stuff for that, because if Sasha Banks isn't there, she's not there, right? Just because we thought it would be the perfect opportunity doesn't mean that they're on good terms enough to do it. So I
Sure.
can't blame them, unfortunately. But it just sucks that they couldn't do it.
No, and I don't necessarily mean that was a surprise because we kind of called that maybe being something that they were doing, but at the same time,
Oh,
we
you're
both had
surprised that she
no.
won clean
I'm
over the two of
surprised
them.
that
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
agree with that.
great. I think it's really good for her character and it makes her a credible champion. But at the same time, I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't see a clean win over the two of them coming. You expected maybe some kind of double cross, maybe Sasha Banks, like we said. Really, any other situation than a clean win, I don't mind it. I don't think that Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross really are gonna like Nikki Cross right now is in a situation where she's teaming with a heel, but she's a babyface, right? That's just plain and simple. She's a babyface. Like she's like a starry-eyed, looking at her idol kind of person. She didn't get hurt by the loss. Alexa Bliss, I don't think she can get hurt by a win or a loss at this point. I think she is what she is. I love her. She's great. She can be the women's champion and she can be just some random talk show host or a host of WrestleMania and she'll still be over with the crowd and she can still be considered a title contender at some point. So her losing is never really a huge concern. But Bayley, I mean, it does a ton for her, right?
Yeah, no, it's good for Bayley. I think Alexa Bliss has a slight problem on her hands, but her and along with a few other the women that were on, I think it was Raw, maybe it was SmackDown. Which one was it? Where they had the Natalia went over and she's going to be facing Bayley at SummerSlam. Those ladies got booed out of that building, and it wasn't very kind and it wasn't very fair. But it didn't look good for the women in that match to be so drowned out by the crowd who just hated and thought the match was boring. So it was a long match to that, defense of the crowd. It was a long match that drew kind of on and on and on. But at the same time, Bliss being part of that and everybody else involved in that is probably not walking away from that match going, oh man, that's not good. But Bayley, good. She's got, and there's lots of room for Banks to come back if that is, the plan for WWE. We talked about the Braun Strowman Bobby Lashley match a little bit. Good long match, lots going on, lots of actions outside. Winds up that he power slams him off the top of what looked like a pre-set up barricade with a box and who knows what else. I thought the neatest part of that whole thing wasn't just the stunt, but the idea that he was going to come barging through the wall to reveal himself as the last man standing. It was pretty obvious, but also at the same time pretty cool.
Well, it's kind of weird because we knew he was standing already. They had already shown an angle of him standing. But him barging through was pretty cool. I agree with you.
Yeah. So New Day, we talked about them winning. We didn't predict that one, but it's kind of cool that they're doing that. So now the New Day has all three titles, the tag titles and the WWE Championship. AJ Styles is the new U.S. champion. Were you surprised to see him beat Ricochet?
No, I mean, I had him winning, but it was one of those matches where I really wasn't sure. Which, I didn't mention this, and it's usually my go-to line, but I had a really tough time deciding on a few matches on this show, like probably 3 of them. That's awesome. Like, I like not being sure. So.
Yep. I think maybe one of the biggest surprises on the men's side was the Kevin Owens-Dolph Ziggler match. It wasn't even a match. 17 seconds, he stuns him, and it's over. They had a much better match on SmackDown, but I didn't care too much. I think the part that bothered me the most was that he basically recycled his promo from Tuesday's SmackDown. So after he beat Ziggler, got on the mic, he said almost identical word for word what he said on SmackDown, which if they're doing that and just repeating it, I hope that's not where they're going with this. But it was basically just a last minute addition to the pay-per-view to get Kevin Owens on there so you could do some damage, say what you need to say, and then take off.
But why did it have to be Ziggler?
Yeah, well, we know what Ziggler is, right? I know you want Ziggler to be more than what Ziggler is, but we know what Ziggler is.
But Ziggler's so
an
much more
enhancement
than
talent.
that.
Yeah, he's not though. You know what I mean? Not to WWE.
No, that's
right?
what I'm saying. Like WWE doesn't see him like that, but he definitely is. You put this guy in AEW and he's Jon Moxley, right? You put him outside of WWE and this guy is the biggest thing in wrestling.
Yeah, I don't agree with you on that at all.
I think he's definitely more charismatic than Moxley. I think he's better in the ring than Moxley.
Oh, sure. And I'm not a huge Moxley fan. Everybody knows, having listened to this podcast, how I feel about Jon Moxley. I think he's in the right time, in the right place, and that's going to go down pretty quick. But I feel the exact same way about Ziggler. I think he's a very good in-ring worker. I think he's got good promo ability, but I don't think he's a massive star, and I don't think WWE is being fair to him, but he isn't heavyweight champion material over the long haul, right? Like he is what he is in WWE now, and maybe they should be sacrificing somebody else to Kevin Owens, but at the same time, Ziggler's never going to get that spot. It's just not going to happen for him.
What about Kofi Kingston?
Kofi Kingston's a little bit different in the fact that he's now attached to New Day. If this was just Kofi Kingston not attached to New Day, he would be like Dolph Ziggler. People love him. He's a fan favorite. He's happy-go-lucky, everybody. But because he's now part of the New Day, it's a whole different feeling for Kofi Kingston, right? You get not only the fact that New Day is beloved by fans everywhere, but you also get the fact that Kofi Kingston's been around for over a decade, and he's finally getting his due, right? If you would put Ziggler in a faction that everybody loved, or he's part of a group that everybody respected, and then he was finally getting his due, I think it'd be a different deal. But because New Day is part of the equation now with Kofi Kingston, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm just.
I know it sucks because people are big fans of Ziggler. I think it's about time people started to realize that I don't think it's happening for him. He's going to be what he is in WWE.
I think it's Vince McMahon's turn to figure out that Ziggler's the world champion. But yeah, that's fine. I mean, you're right. I agree with you. It just sucks.
Yeah. Kofi Kingston did defeat Samoa Joe, though. We both thought maybe Joe had a shot at it. I actually predicted that he might win. I was wrong. Kingston held on to it. He's still the champion. Is Samoa Joe, we talk about enhancement talent, is Samoa Joe maybe the one guy on the WWE roster who is, the jobber of all jobs? I think he hasn't won in 8 pay-per-views or something. He's not won a match. Or he's lost 8 consecutive championship matches or something. I'm not sure what the stat is, but he's lost a ton. And he just continues to keep losing.
Yeah, he's a great
sneaky one against Balor.
He's a great enhancement talent. He's literally Braun Strowman at this point. Goes over, looks huge, and then loses to the big guy to make them look bigger and better.
Yeah. Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch defeated Corbin and Lacey Evans, which we probably figured would happen. What we probably didn't predict was that Brock Lesnar was going to show up with the briefcase and steal the Universal Championship. Are you like many people on social media that hated that, or are you okay with it?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic that they're going to do better this time around just because the show's been the product in general has been so good as of late. I mean, I also trusted that maybe Dolph Ziggler was going to be used properly, so maybe my trust is being abused a little by WWE, but it should have been me.
That's what it is to be a WWE fan, though, right? You get some of the things you love, and then you feel like you get the crap kicked out of you by them.
Every story I read on Wrestling Write-Ups now is going to be a Dolph Ziggler post. That's it.
As our traffic just flies off the face of the planet. It just dies.
Or it goes up, and then you realize that maybe he really should be the champion.
That would be a lovely prove me wrong situation.
Yeah, all right, that's how I'm going to convince you.
Extreme Rules in the bag. Next big event coming up for WWE is the Raw Reunion. I'm a little weirded out by the timing of all this. If Paul Heyman is taking over Raw and this last Monday was his first Raw, we're assuming that is the case. Seems like strange timing to have a Raw reunion where there can't be a whole lot going on for storylines when Heyman's just on his second show. It'll be a fun show to watch, but these Raw reunions, or any reunion for that matter, where they bring in what's going to be close to 40 different people that used to wrestle here, it's not going to be much of a storyline show. It's going to be more of a nostalgia cameo, pop and
it's like Raw 25 or something,
right.
It's not going to be the biggest show of the year as far as quality matches go, it's going to be just segment after segment after segment with people just showing up randomly. Ron Simmons is going to be there with a damn segment, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's going to
It
be
just
stuff
seems
like
like
that.
strange timing considering they're letting these guys start from scratch, right? Like some of the predictions we were making were based on the idea that they were clearing off the table and given, Heyman and Bischoff respectively new platforms with creative freedom to start from the beginning. And then they just shove this Raw reunion at Heyman and say, here, oh, by the way, yeah, you got to do this show before you can really get going. Do you have any thoughts that they might actually work a storyline into the show, or is it basically going to be 3 hours of cameos?
It's just going to be, it's going to be storyline building, but I assume it's going to be mostly cameos.
Anybody you're looking forward to seeing the most?
I have no idea. If Stone Cold's there, that'll be cool.
He's going to be there. Yeah, he's already posted on social media that he'll be showing up. Hogan's going to be there. DX will be there. Less Billy Gunn, of course. Jim Ross was asked, but he declined. Devon Dudley's going to be there, but Bubba Ray sounds like he's declined.
Ask Jim Ross? What do you think's going to happen there? Of course he's not showing up.
Right. Yeah. No, I can't imagine anybody connected to AEW will be there, but I'm surprised they even asked Jim Ross, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm saying. It's weird.
Yeah. But
I want to see 2009 Dolph Ziggler. Whenever he won the World Championship, I want to see that Dolph Ziggler.
He probably won't even be on the show.
He probably won't.
He'll end up losing to Melina, who's coming back.
Is she actually coming back?
She's coming back, yeah. She posted on social media today, which could be interesting. She's not in real life connected to Johnny Impact anymore, but here's a guy who just freed himself up from Impact Wrestling, and in the past with WWE was connected to Melina at the hip. I wonder if Melina might be the intro to Johnny Impact joining WWE. Just some speculation.
Johnny SmackDown?
Johnny SmackDown, Johnny Raw, Johnny whatever. Right?
I assume he'd just be John Morrison again, but yeah, that'd be interesting. Like, yeah. I think he's great. I don't think he's gonna be somewhere in between like Bobby Roode and I don't know, Finn Balor, as far as like how they'd use him, right? Like they'll use him more than Bobby Roode, probably less than Finn Balor, and he won't be as big as a star as he is on the Independents. But I love him, and I'd love to see him back. He's 40 now, so he's
I don't know.
He's running out of time to really make an impact. Although,
but it's a little strange that they would invite Melina to this thing and maybe not have that connection somewhere, because she wasn't terribly relevant on Raw when she was around, and she hasn't really been in the wrestling scene at all since she sort of left it. So I'm a little surprised that of all the people that have been included in this Raw reunion, she's on that list. But most of the names that are on this Raw reunion are actually people who work behind the scenes for WWE, whether it's Hurricane Helms or other guys that are already backstage, and now they're just bringing them out and going, oh, hey, by the way, they're all back now. It's like, well, yeah. Like Bischoff and they all work for you now anyway.
Bischoff has to come out, right? For sure.
Yep, he's going to be there. They say that he was not part of SmackDown this week. He was supposed to be taking over creative and taking over SmackDown, but he did not. He wasn't backstage on Tuesday. That show had nothing to do with him. He wasn't involved in the creative at all. Sounds like he was still moving to Stamford and just getting himself comfortable. But he did say once in an interview that he was going to need some extra time to get familiar with the product and the creative before he really stepped in and kind of gave his opinions on things. So maybe he's going to be a little farther away before he really gets involved.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Paul Heyman's been very involved. Paul Heyman's, literally been working in the product for all this time. Bischoff, not so much.
Yeah, he's around the wrestling scene, but he's not necessarily around the WWE scene. He's been doing his podcast and he's staying within the industry, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's not really kept up on the product all that much, because it's not like they're talking about the product on his podcast. They're talking about old WCW days. So it's not like he would know the ins and outs of everything, although he is familiar with them. He has talked about wanting to turn Roman Reigns heel if he ever had the opportunity, or other things that he would do with the product. So he does have it, handle on it, but he just needs to be more familiar with everybody.
Yeah, I guess. And familiar with where the characters are at right now in their current storylines. To be fair, you could just drop a character on a dime and reintroduce it somehow, some other way. That's not an issue. Like if you saw Robert Roode now has just a full beard again. No longer just has the mustache, which you liked a lot with the mustache. I wasn't crazy about. We really, really were wrong about that. We thought maybe this is like the renaissance of Robert Roode. Maybe he comes back, he has a nice run in the mid card, and then he's off TV.
Well, I did like what they did with him on Raw this Monday. They teamed him with the Revival, And there's been hints on social media and pictures around that, Heyman might be interested in forming a new dangerous alliance, like the old faction he had in WCW. Robert Roode playing the Rick Rude part, and, the Revival, playing their part, and maybe somebody even like Carmella coming in and playing the old Alundra Blaze role. Like that, if that is where they're going with that, that would be very cool. If it was Robert Roode and the Revival and whomever else they put in that group. Would be really cool. So hopefully they
factions are so great. Just bring them all back. And while we're at it, bring back Dolph Ziggler as world champion. Factions are so great. I'm gonna just drop it at every single.
You're setting yourself up for such disappointment.
I've already been so disappointed, Jim. I can only go uphill from here. I can't be further to at rock bottom with Dolph Ziggler.
Oh my gosh. Well, the ratings went up for Raw this week. I mean, the show was good. Lesnar being the champion was a big boost. I don't know if that was because people thought Heyman was taking over or because Lesnar's got the Universal title, but whatever the case might be, it sure sounds like that helped a little bit, so the ratings were up. Yep. The show was good, and SmackDown sounds like Shawn Michaels is going to be part of the Raw reunion, but he's also going to be on commentary this Tuesday on SmackDown Live. I don't know if that's a one-time deal related to the reunion or if that's something he's going to do more often, but he was joking about it on social media today. I wonder why they would choose to use him in the commentary table on Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't know, but give me more Shawn Michaels, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't take him away from the match products in NXT, because he's clearly influencing how good those matches are down there. And so if he's removes himself or they remove him from that role, that would be a real downer. But
yeah, this shouldn't be a full-time thing. I mean, I assume it's just a one-off, but it could be more because who knows. But I don't think it's going to touch his role with like the Performance Center or NXT or anything.
Yep. Tuesday, Liv Morgan. Did you see her little promo? She got in the match with Charlotte Flair. She did the town hall. She called Charlotte Flair out. They said, "Oh, is there anything real about you?" Charlotte Flair said, "Oh, well, this is ironic coming from someone with a blue tongue." She has the match. She loses the match. She gets on the headset, rips it off of Corey Graves' head, and said, "When I come back, I'm going to be more real." Charlotte was right. So I get the hint Liv Morgan's taken off for a while, but when she returns, she's going to be a different character. Is it about time Liv Morgan gets an opportunity?
Yes. It was about time she got an opportunity about 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so it should be interesting to see what she does. I mean, there's all these hints of SmackDown Liv. I don't know if that's what they're doing because that's not the real idea that she's probably going for, but who knows? It'd be nice to see what she happens. And I think the biggest thing between both shows, Monday and Tuesday, was the debut of The Fiend, who came out and destroyed Finn Balor. I'm a little surprised, actually, that that's who they chose to debut, right? I'm wondering if they're going to move back and forth between The Fiend and Bray Wyatt, and Wyatt's not going to understand that The Fiend was out there last week, or
I would love that if he comes out and he's just like, happy-go-lucky wearing a sweater, and Balor wants to fight, and he's like, "What are you talking about, man?"
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
But then again,
I don't
he
know
can
what
control
happened.
it, so I don't know. Maybe he thinks he can control it, but he can't. I don't know. But to be fair, he's been gold ever since they brought him back, so it'll be cool to see what they do with him. And again, I guess we have to be optimistic, but who knows?
Well, his outfit was cool. He looks like he's in great shape. The lights out and the lights flashing through the ring, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it's Balor, but again, at the same time, we know that Balor's leaving, taking a break for a while, so I suppose you got to do that. The only thing I worry about is if this turns into Finn Balor becoming the Demon and the Demon losing.
I know.
Right?
They should protect that gimmick.
If that happens, then that's pretty much the end of the Demon, right? Because the Demon, the one thing about him is that he's undefeated on the main roster. Now, he's not undefeated in NXT, but he's undefeated on the main roster. And when he comes out and he wrestles, he's pretty much unstoppable. Great for Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, because if they do that, it's going to make him shoot him immediately to the top rung in WWE, but not so good for Finn Balor. So it's kind of like burying the guy on the way out, even though he's not leaving. He's just taking a break. Are you hoping it's just Balor? And then when maybe Balor returns, it's the Demon who comes back? Or would you like to see the Demon prior to Finn Balor leaving?
I mean, on the surface, you want it to be the Fiend versus the Demon. But I really don't want either to lose. So it doesn't make any sense to have the Demon come out for that situation. I'm going to just sit back and enjoy this storyline and hope it goes properly. And I really don't know what to expect from it, quite frankly.
Where else can we go? I mean, we can talk a little bit about Raw and SmackDown some more, but I think one of the bigger news items to come out of this week was it sounds like CM Punk has been confirmed for StarCast 3
Yep.
at the end of August, so he's going to be there, which, of course, everybody's going to assume is going to be somehow connected to All Out, even though AEW and StarCast are not affiliated with each other. They just happen to have a partnership where they like to work together. Do you think this lends any more to the idea that Punk will be in an AEW ring at some point, or is this just, a conference? Punk is showing up, he's going to sign some autographs and say hello and then be on his way?
So it seems to be he's just there for StarCast, but I mean that would make sense to have people think that, right? And then have him just show up at an AEW. I mean, we all want him back in wrestling, right? People that don't want him back in wrestling are either lying or they just probably aren't very fun people. I'd imagine. Those are the same people that think Dolph Ziggler's not a world champion. But yeah, no, I can't even take myself seriously with it anymore. No, I mean, I'd love to see CM Punk in AEW. Does he still have it in the wrestling ring? We don't know. Would it be nice to see him even for just like a string of events? Absolutely. Is he going to show up in AEW? I really don't know, man. But I hope so.
Yeah, well, it's all in the same weekend, and they're right beside each other. So
Yeah,
you would think that it might happen, but he's always said he's not coming back, and AEW and Jericho just said they're not looking for him. So who knows? Maybe it's just one of those things. But cue the speculation. People will be all over this for the next month and change.
yeah. CM Punk will never ever disappear in wrestling.
Well, if he doesn't show up at All Out, that's maybe the time that it starts to go away. If he goes to StarCast 3 and he's there and he's in attendance and he's not at the AEW pay-per-view, people may finally give it a break. Because there's no other opportunity really, right? He's not fighting. He's not doing much of anything. He's in the same vicinity. He's with the same people. It's on the same weekend. He's in his hometown. He's already at StarCast. Oh, and by the way, he didn't show up to AEW.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
it
would look pretty bad.
Maybe people finally are going, he's not coming back to wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, he'll make these appearances, he'll get his paycheck, he'll sign some autographs and say hello, but he's not coming back to wrestling. So that if that happens, right, maybe people will finally give it a break. Anyway, yeah, it's the first time that we don't really have a WWE pay-per-view. Like in 2 weeks, we've got SummerSlam coming up, but there's finally a break between WWE events. And AEW looks like they don't have anything for a while, so we're going to go a few weeks without having any pay-per-views coming up. This is kind of a weird feeling, but it'll be interesting to watch Raw and SmackDown with, Heyman and Bischoff taking over the Raw reunion and then, building towards possibly another reunion when they get to Fox on SmackDown. But it should be fun to watch Raw and SmackDown for the next couple weeks. We're going to keep her shorter today because we're working with all these technical difficulties. Anything you want to add before we let them go?
I don't think so. Finally started that job, so that's fun.
Right on.
It's been a lot, but I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, hey, keeping busy, doing hard work is never a bad thing as long as you're enjoying it, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, I will. I'll talk to you next week, assuming that we can figure out the technical difficulties by then. Let's hope that that's the case, and our schedules align. We'll find the time to do that again. For everybody else who's listening, don't forget, download, subscribe to, rate, comment on our podcast, Anchor.fm, Apple Play, Google Play Podcasts, Sportster.com, WrestleWriteups.com, WrestlingWriteups.com, and WrestleWriteups on Twitter. Until then, man, we'll see you next week or talk to you next week. And for everybody else, thank you. This has been another edition of the Smart Marks of Wrestling podcast, episode 18, presented by thesportster.com.
Dolph Ziggler.
See you next week, man.